this week we're conducting an experiment to see how if I shift my sleep from anywhere between 6 to just over 6.5 hours, which has been pretty much the average consistently over the past 6 to 8 months, to 8 hours a night. How does this affect some subjective measures like irritability, performance, energy throughout the day? And more importantly, what about the objective measures? I've been wearing the Whoop for 15 months now. I did a video, go and check it out if you've not had a look on whether it's worth it and the types of statistics and vitals that the Whoop actually measures. Now, if you look at my statistics on the Whoop, you can see that my sleep is the thing that seems to suffer. Like if you're anything like me, you run a business, you have children, you'll often find that sleep is the thing that often gets compromised. It's the one thing that if you're working hard, you end up pushing back further and further, sometimes because you feel that you want to spend that time for yourself. You feel like you want some personal time, personal space, and it happens to eat late into the evening. Now, the impact of that is that you go to bed later, you wake up feeling more tired, and it becomes a vicious cycle. Now, this exercise this week is going to be really, really tough because going to bed, which for me this week is going to be between the window of 9:30 and 10, with the exception of Wednesday when I have to get up at 5 o'clock, is going to be to get to sleep within that same window. And then we're going to measure it and see how it impacts on the vitals here and also how it impacts on how I feel. And I give you a breakdown day by day on that. The other key thing is that we're going to aim for about 8 hours minimum per night, which means that I'm going to bed to 10 o'clock. I'm not getting up till 6 o'clock. Now, I have children, so there may be some things that factor in there if, you know, a child sick or something like that, but I'm going to show you where I am now and where I am at the end of the week, and we're going to see if sleep really does have the biggest impact that people say it does when you nail that as a measure for overall optimization and improving your performance. So the first thing to take a look at is where do we stand as it currently looks. So we're going to take a look and we're going to look at my overall recovery over the last few days. Now, it's not been great. You can see on Tuesday I had 96% recovery and then 70%, but I've been pretty much in the amber. That Thursday statistic of 38% is almost red for me. I hardly ever end up in that sort of place, but I feel like I've been carrying some sort of virus. My children have been sick, and that's part of the reason why. Now, if you look at my overall monthly stats, you can see it's heavily in amber, which is saying that all my vitals, all my statistics generally saying that I'm not recovered very well. Now, one of the big things that I need to factor into this is I've been training extra hard. I've been training 5-6 days a week recently, and so that's probably played a factor into my recovery, which means that actually I probably need more sleep than I would normally do should I not be training that much. The other things that we want to look at is HRV, which is your heart rate variability. You can see that actually it's decreased in the past 6 months from 102 when I was on peak performance in the summer. But what you can see here is it's averaging out at 88 milliseconds over the last month, which isn't great for me. 89 if I look at the last week. A couple more stats that we're going to take a look at is our resting heart rate, which is currently sitting at 49, showing that actually my resting heart rate is higher than normal and I'm not very recovered. And we're going to look at sleep performance here, which is averaging out at 72%. So the goal is going to be to get that up. Now, they're the objective measures. What we're actually going to take a look at is some of the subjective measures, and I'm going to score them between 1 to 10. So I'm going to take a look at energy, irritability, and performance. Now, overall energy for me throughout the week, I would say varies depending on the meetings that I've got, the schedules that I've got, and how much I'm doing with the children and how much I'm doing with work. But if I had to score my energy throughout the week, I would probably say it's 5.5. It's pretty poor based on the workouts that I'm doing, the sleep that I'm getting. So I'm going to say overall in this week, I'm going to score 5.5 for energy. And then irritability, again, 10 being really irritable, 1 being not irritable at all. I do get quite irritable, because I get quite tired. I've got a lot of stress. The kids, not going to sleep on time, and I've not got the mental capacity to deal with it because I've got all these things going on. So irritability for me is a 6.5, which isn't great. And then the last one is performance. I have days where I get very, very little done, and that is a result of me being really tired. And so performance for me, 10 being the best performance that I can be, and 1 being zero performance, 1 being poor performance. Actually, the measure for me on this, I would say, because I'm quite good at pushing through that, is probably a 6 in terms of performance, but I want to get that up higher. So it's day 1 tonight. I've got actually about an hour and a half before I need to start the bed preparation routine. get to sleep between 9:30 and 10 and wake up refreshed tomorrow. So day one, it's going to be 5 days worth of training. I'll put all the links in the description below as to day one, day two, and then the overall conclusion if you want to skip straight to that. And let's get going. Let's see what this full week of good sleep brings us. Right, morning one, and I've just woke up, as you can see. Let's get that fixed. There we go. Let's jump into the office to see what stats on day one are. All right, let's jump in. Day one. And last night was really mixed. So I went to bed and I finally fell asleep around 10 past 10, which was all right. I was trying to get to sleep before 10 o'clock. It didn't happen. However, my wife wasn't well. Kim wasn't well. And so I woke up at 20 to 11 to get some medicine, then woke up at like 11:30 to get her a drink, and then was up at 2 o'clock, was up at 10 past 4. I got her a cloth. She was really, really unwell. So I was up and down all night, and then the kids came in my bed. So it was really mixed. So I had the length of sleep, and I feel really recovered today. Like there's no doubt about it. So I've had, and I'll show you now on the device, I have had poor sleep, high recovery. So let's jump into the app and see what's going on there. So what you can see is, that sleep is 69% efficiency. So if you look here, I've actually, even though I went to bed at 10 o'clock and woke up at 7, I've actually only had 6.5 hours sleep. And the reason for that is because of these wake events, and my deep sleep was really low because I kept getting woke up, so I couldn't get into a deep sleep phase. This is why I say sleep is good to get the duration, but sleep efficiency is equally as important. So 2.8 wake events, that's the highest range that I ever have. I don't think I've ever had 3. So that's basically saying that's the worst sleep that I can ever get, 3 hours of restorative sleep. But the good thing about it here is that you can see my recovery is at 83%. So you can see that my HRV, that's my heart rate variability, my resting heart rate's down based on the stats of this last week. You can see 45. So it just goes to show that duration does play a part, even if it means that you're not getting the sleep efficiency. So that's really good to know. That's telling me that if you go to bed earlier and more consistently, even if your sleep is disrupted and broken, you're still going to feel the benefit. So we're going to carry on and see if we can stay in the green for the rest of the week. We've got another 4 days to go, and try and hit in those 8-hour sleep duration. And that's going to bed at, between that window of 9:30 to 10 o'clock. So day 2, let's see how we get on. In terms of these objective measures, energy, irritability, and performance, I'll let you know throughout the day. At the minute, I'm feeling pretty good. So it's now 9 o'clock in the evening, and I've got a couple of difficult choices to make. I wanted to hit the gym. It's 9:05, and we know we've got this window between 9:30 and 10 o'clock when we need to go to sleep. So I really wanted to shower, get myself ready for tomorrow. But I've chosen the gym, 25 minutes. I really didn't want to do it, but I said to myself, just do 20 minutes, just do 25 minutes. Then I'll go up, have a quick wash, straight to bed. And that means day 2 of the 9:30, 10 window is done. I've had a nightmare day today. Kim's been really sick. I've had to go to the pharmacy and all sorts. So we'll see what tomorrow holds up in terms of stress for today and the stats for tomorrow. Right, workout done. I want to do anything now but go to sleep. However, it's 25 to 10, which means I've got to put the bins out and go to sleep. I'll see you in the morning. Okay, day 2, and we're in the green again, but very, very broken sleep, high wake events, not that much deep sleep, and actually the duration of sleep, even though I went to bed at 10, was very, very broken up. I was up a number of times, which I'll tell you about as we jump into the stats for day 2. So I'm not gonna lie, everything went to pot. I ended up at A&E yesterday until nearly 2 o'clock in the morning, which means that my sleep pattern was absolutely knackered. I had 4 hours sleep, but I'm going to stick with it, and I'm going to aim to get to bed for 9:30 tonight, because essentially what it's showing is my HRV is still high, and we'll jump into the stats in a minute, but my sleep's really low. So I think because I had 2 days strong sleep, I should overall feel the benefit, and I should be able to get back to the green tomorrow and the day after, providing that I go to bed at 9:30 tonight. So let's jump into those stats now. All right, guys, so you can see here my recovery unfortunately did dip to 66%, but we'll look at the reason why, and it is here: sleep performance. Sleep performance in the last week
Wasn't great on those 2 days, but I had longer sleep, 67% and 69%, 53% here. So if we take a look at hours needed versus hours had, you can see even though I was getting like 8 hours and I was going to bed here at 9:30, 10 o'clock, I still wasn't getting the right duration. And this is just way off the chart. Obviously, this is like 4 and a bit hours now. So this isn't good. However, my HRV has stayed consistently high in terms of milliseconds, which is good. My resting heart rate has stayed roughly a little bit lower, showing promising signs that the sleep that I did have was working. So a couple more days left. Let's see how we get on, if we can get it back to green. If not, it's back to the drawing board next week.
Okay, so the week went a little bit less favourable than planned because Kim was pretty sick and we ended up at 7 hours at A&E, which meant that one of the days I ended up sleeping to not going to sleep until 2 a.m, which is really interesting because it gives us some stats to have a look at on how my sleep and recovery was based on when I went to bed between that 9:30 till 10 o'clock window versus when I went to bed at 2. And also I think the fact that my recovery, which I'll jump into, wasn't as poor on the day when I had 4 hours sleep, which is the day that we went to A&E. So let's take a look right in on the stats and see what we're dealing with. So we'll bring those stats up on screen now. We can see, just to add, I went to sleep pretty much all days between 9:30 and 10:10. I tried to get before 10, but just a few things sometimes trip me up. So let's go to recovery and have a look at recovery here. So you can see this is when I started it on the Tuesday. The Tuesday, Wednesday was great, 83%, 78% recovery. The Thursday was the day when I was at A&E, did go to bed till 2, but then 79 and 85% recovery. So there's a clear correlation because my sleep wasn't great. I've got both kids in the bed with me, remember. I'm in a separate bed to Kim. So my sleep was not great, and I'll show you that in a minute. But actually, if you look at some of the really interesting stats, which is the overview on this page, my HRV, which is the heart rate variability, which measures the time and distance between your heart rates, has peaked. It's one of the highest it's been for a while. So 4 days out of 5 consistency in terms of sleep. And I've really seen a massive shift and movement in my overall recovery stats, which is really, really interesting. If you look at resting heart rate again, pretty steady, but at the lower end of those 4 days of decent sleep. And you can see that my calories today is 3,300, but overall calorie consumption, interestingly enough, has been a little bit lower, even though I have been doing exercise and activity. So how do I feel? Like we said we'd look at some of the stats initially, and we've looked at some of those subjective stats. And ultimately what it's saying is my respiratory rate, my heart rate, my overall recovery, everything is much, much better. And so without a question of a doubt, if you're not getting the right level of sleep, we'll take a look at sleep quality over the past few days. So you can see 1.5 wake events last night. That was pretty good. But if you look at sleep on yesterday, again, 10 hours were needed, but I only ended up getting 6. You go to the day before that, this was the one, 4 and a bit hours. So sleep obviously wasn't good on that day. But even if you look at actually percentage, I was only getting 6 hours, even though I was actually going to sleep on that 8-hour window. I was only here, even on the Tuesday, I'm getting 6.5 hours. So what it's saying is there's not as much impact on the quality of your sleep so much as when you go to sleep. That's the biggest thing. And so we said we'd look at a few measures, or subjective measures really, and that was energy, irritability, and performance. Bearing in mind that I've been a single parent this week, so I've been doing all the washing, all the cleaning, taking the kids to school. Like, my wife's literally been in bed. So energy, and I can't remember what I scored previously in terms of overall energy, but I would say it's not been great, it's not been amazing, but I've not had this, because I have had slumps at parts. So my energy now, I would say, is 7 overall throughout the week. Irritability, and this is a difficult one because the children have been really, really pushing their limits, shall we say, on some of this. And so irritability, 10 being really, really agitated and 0 being not agitated at all. Probably going to say 5, 6. I'm going to say I've been 6 in terms of irritability. And in terms of performance, this is probably one where I've seen the biggest jump. So performance, I would say, in terms of gym, recovery, overall ability to do things at work and perform, it's probably been a 7.5, an 8, possibly pushing a little bit higher. And I would say that has been the biggest overall change to what I've seen with sleep. I've been able to perform much better. And so whilst I might have been a grumpy shit from time to time, and my energy levels haven't sustained, I have felt like performance-wise I've been able to push myself a little bit more. So the lesson that we take from this is this. If you can control one thing, then control that window in which you go to bed, because you will see significant improvements in your performance. If other factors are at play, you may want to consider other things that you need to adjust. But if you want to focus on performance and improving that performance, then without a shadow of doubt, going to bed within the same window is going to be something that you're going to want to focus on to try and improve and drive your optimum performance in week, in month, in year.